I formally open this special committee meeting and ask that you stand for the opening prayer and statement. We give thanks, O God, for the men and women of the past whose generous devotion to the common good has been the making of our city. Grant that our own generation may build worthily on the foundations they have laid. Direct our minds to all we plan and determine is for the well-being of our city. Amen. Amen. In the spirit of reconciliation, we acknowledge the Wurundjeri as the traditional custodians of the land we are meeting on. We pay our respects to their elders, past and present. Please be seated. Councillors and members of the public, please note that our meetings are now audio recorded and uploaded to our council's website with the purpose of providing greater access to council debate and decision making and encouraging openness and transparency. Please note that any statements made by individual persons during a meeting are not the opinions or statements of Whitehorse City Council, and therefore Council accepts no responsibility. I would now like to introduce our councillors and senior officers in attendance this evening. Councillors on my left, Councillor Raylene Carr. Councillor Bill Bennett.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome.
Councillor Blair Barker.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for coming.
Councillor Tina Liu.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome.
Councillor Sharon Ellis. Councillors on my right, Councillor Ben Stennett.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome.
Councillor Prue Cutts.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome.
Councillor Denise Massoud.
Good evening, and good to see you here.
Councillor Andrew Munro.
Good evening, all, and welcome.
Officers on my left, Chief Executive Officer Miss Nolene Duff.
Good evening.
General Manager Infrastructure Mr Philip Warner.
Good evening.
General Manager Corporate Services Mr Peter Smith. And officers on my right, Executive Manager Governance and Customer Service Mr Tony DeFazio.
Good evening, everyone.
Team Leader Governance Miss Jenny Russell.
Good evening.
General Manager City Development Mr Jeff Green.
Good evening.
General Manager Human Services Miss Terry Wilkinson.
Good evening.
And in the gallery, Manager Communications Miss Sally Freud. We'll go to the next item on the agenda, which is apologies. There are none. The next item is disclosure of conflicts of interests. Councillors and officers, are there any disclosures of conflict of interest with regards to the matters to be considered on tonight's agenda? If so, I will require councillors and officers to disclose that interest and the nature of that interest. There being none, the next item is confirmation of minutes. Councillors, we have listed on the agenda the minutes of the previous meeting held on 4th December 2017, requiring a confirmation by the committee. Can I have a motion to confirm the minutes, please?
So moved.
Councillor Bennett moved.
Happy to second.
Councillor Massoud second. All those in favour? Against? Carried unanimously. Item number 5, public submissions. The special committee provides the opportunity for anyone who is registered with council administration in accordance with the printed guidelines attached to the special committee agenda to make a presentation before the special committee. Speakers will be given a maximum time of up to 3 minutes for their presentation, with a reminder at 30 seconds. That sounds like that reminder. There will be no opportunity for interjection or debate on the issue. I will now invite the first registered speaker to come forward, who is Anthony Bullock, speaking in opposition to planning application for 2 Ferguson Street, Mitcham planning application. Anthony, may I ask that you please press the green button when you're about to speak. Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor and Councillors. My name is Anthony Bullock, and I'm here to talk to you regarding my opposition to the 2 Ferguson Street planning submission. Behind me, a 3-metre fence, which is a feature of the 2 Ferguson Street planning submission. I live on the other side of this fence. I would like to share with you my concerns, and I'll start with a short reflection. When I was a kid, we used to have family dinner time at the dinner table. It was a time when we were allowed to interact as a family. As we grew older, and our lives got busier, we started to move dinner in front of the TV, and dinner became more about the timing of TV shows, and conversation got dwindled down to the commercial breaks. Even when Mum bought a brand new couch and she tried to reinstate dinner time, us kids protested because we miss our favourite TV shows. I'm telling you this story because as the father of a 2-week-old daughter, I myself am starting to think about the precedents that I will set for my family in the future. The same way yourselves, in considering the planning submission of 2 Ferguson Street next week, will be setting a precedent for the living conditions in the Mitcham area. My concerns and those of other residents in the area are outlined in this document. They include how common living space within the proposed development has been reduced to the size of just a double garage. How this development represents a 10-fold increase in the current density, the average density of the Mitcham area. How lack of off-street parking and removal of on-street parking will further congest the streets of the Mitcham area and across the road from a local kindergarten, putting children's lives at risk. How a 3-metre fence, with thanks from consultation with town planning, has been reduced to 2.2 metres, but will still significantly overburden our property. And how this development will overshadow my neighbour's north-facing habitable room on 23 Purchase Street. It also outlines how at the planning consultation forum, we as a community came forward and said 3 townhouses would be a more appropriate development of this land. These developers have brought in a blueprint that works in other councils and not tailored it to the Mitcham community. So next week, when you are considering this planning permission, you are also considering the precedent that you're going to set for the Mitcham area and the lives of the community. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Anthony Bullock. I now call on Suzanne Thomas, Mitcham, speaking in opposition to planning application for 2 Ferguson Street, Mitcham. Can I please ask that you turn on the mic?
No.
Thank you.
Okay.
And point the microphone to your closer to your mouth.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good evening to Mayor and Councillors. My name is Suzanne Thomas, and where do I live? I live opposite the Ferguson Street proposition of units. I have photos here that are taken in the street, along with what Anthony has, of what we actually have to put up with at the moment. The photos are 5 cars on the eastern side of the street, 15 cars on the eastern side of the street, and 5 on the western, which is a 2-hour parking lot, and they've been there for more than 2 hours. These particular proposal, there's 4 single garages. Each unit has 4 bedrooms, almost no bathrooms upstairs. Yes, as Anthony made comment, 3 units, 3 townhouses would be enough, and there would be enough parking. Many families in the area have 2 cars. Where is their second car going to be parked? Hopefully they've got it in their driveway, but more often than not, it's on the street. And all cars have to reverse out of their street, out of their property. And where do they reverse? Pretty well up my driveway, not allowing me to get out. Myself and my neighbours constantly have people knocking on our doors or flyers put in our letterboxes asking if we have a room to rent, and this we don't want to happen. Then, if that does happen, then there's more cars and more cars on the street. Now, number 14 has 4 units on it. There are 6 cars that come into number 14, 2 are parked on the street. 1 purposefully opposite my driveway. Anthony has a photo of that. Number 24 has 3 cars parked in Patrick Court, and along with that, 1 white car parked on the west side of the street in a 2-hour parking zone and parked there all day with no infringement. Families dropping off little ones at the kindergarten directly opposite Ferguson Street park on either side of the road along with the parking in Ferguson Street. Parents cannot see if a car is coming up Purchase Street nor down Purchase Street, let alone the drivers of the little ones, seeing the little ones in between the cars. We have had 1 severe accident on the street, and by the way, everybody note and make it a point, don't have any pets. I've had 4 animals killed in front of my house by cars coming around the corner. And I personally have had a near miss as an accident. So, in all, the extra parking here at our railway station hasn't alleviated a thing. This is a suburban bush area, and our bush is constantly being sacrificed for development. Thank you.
Thank you. I now call upon Peter Carter of Box Hill North, registering to speak on North East Link in conjunction with the MAC. Thank you, Peter.
Good evening, Mayor and Councillors. My name is Peter Carter, and I'm here to speak to you primarily on the Box Hill Metropolitan Activity Centre. I guess I've been thinking about this particular topic for quite a while, and I guess the most recent, some of the most recent newspapers did draw my attention again to this topic, and that's really the level of development that is happening in Box Hill. The lead is showing here 10 buildings with an average height of an average height which contains 30 stories. They're broadly replacing buildings which are only about effectively 1 story each. So in essence, there's an awful lot of unknown traffic being generated, traffic or trips I should say more to the point, which will emerge not just from these, but the remainder of development that will occur in the rest of Box Hill over the next 10 or so years. Needless, I'm sure you're very much aware, as has been debated many times, about the Box Hill Metro Centre and indeed the level of development happening here. Basically, the Box Hill Metro Activity Centre has a number of reports behind it. First one I refer to is the structure plan. Informs it. Now, some of the key messages I picked out of it is saying the arterial roads are very much at or near capacity. And that was a statement made in 2007. If one looks at the traffic volumes for Vic roads, that's still very much indicating that there's not been very little traffic growth on the key arterials of Whitehorse, Elgar and Station Street. Those roads which we see to the thing. The secondary thing is that came out of that particular report was a dramatic need to increase active transport and public transport in the area. Dramatic is no way, it's a qualified, it's not particularly objective, and it's not specific to what means dramatic. I'll race ahead now quite ahead because first, my point is that all the above strategies I've referred to need to be informed by the level of development of the trips which will occur there. I call on Council to engage an experienced transport planner to develop a detailed traffic model of that area so that the trip numbers, the travel patterns, the modes are understood. And thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Carter. Councillors, as there are no further speakers that are registered and are present, I will move on to the next item of the agenda, which is item number 6, reports from officers. As there are no reports from officers, I will now go to other business. Councillors, in accordance with our council procedure in regard to raising matters of other business, are there any proposed written motions for consideration this evening? There being none, public comment. The special committee allows for the opportunity for members of the gallery to make comment only with regards to matters raised under item 6, reports from officers, or by councillors under item number 7, other business. As there have been no reports from officers or items under other business, there's no ability to make a public comment this evening. So we'll move on to item 9, confidential items. There are none. So now it's item number 10, close of meeting. In closing the meeting, I thank you all for your attendance and contribution, especially from the speakers that have registered, and have a good evening. Thank you.